At Rubber Band, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubber Band. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive.
Are you tired of spending endless hours on traditional hiring methods? Fairgo.ai is here to revolutionize the way you conduct interviews. Our platform allows for real-time AI interviewing, giving you the flexibility to connect with candidates anytime, anywhere. By automating the matching process, we eliminate the need for manual input, saving you time and effort. And the best part? We're committed to promoting a fair and unbiased interview process by removing identifying information. Embrace the future of hiring with Fairgo.ai today so you never miss another great candidate.
And we are live. Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Rubber Band podcast, where I am joined by guest Michael Yakunin. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the lands and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to the Rubber Band podcast. Michael, how you doing?
Thank you, Eden, for having me here. It's so exciting. Great way to start Monday. I'm excited. Thank you again for having me here.
Awesome way to start the week. I agree. And that's giving listeners a clue that I record these on, late in the afternoon at the start of the week. So there we go. But that's all good.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We start the week that way and, just continue going.
It is. It's always a nice way to start the week. I do agree. And I'm really excited to get to know you today and talk through your career and find out all the things that you've been doing and all the little nuggets of advice for our audience. And I can't wait to learn from you. So it'll be a really fun chat.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Michael.
Oh, thanks for inviting. Yeah, I think we need to let our listeners know how we end up here. It was quite an interesting story for me calling you out of blue, and then just end up here. So I think it's quite interesting.
Absolutely, we all have a story, and it's important to share and learn from each other. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, let's go way back, right? Not quite as far back as you need to go with me, but you appear to be a lot younger than me. But let's go back and let's
just
find
a
out
few
more
years difference. Don't worry.
I know, right? I've turned 39 about 10 times, so So what we'll do, we'll go right back. So tell me about yourself. Tell me about growing up, where you're from, about your family. Tell me all of those things, all of the history that's made up the Michael that's in front of me today.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting. Well, look, I grew up very far from here. I'm originally from Russia. So, probably not the best place to be from right now, but that's where I'm from originally. I grew up in the capital, in Moscow, which is ordinary family, nothing special. Then I was studying there, and I had an opportunity to go to Europe as a part of Erasmus Plus, and it was the first probably opportunity for me to see the way people live in Western world, and I really liked it. When I came back after this exchange program, I was just like, well, I want to get out of Russia, and I had a few options. I wanted to go to Canada first. I literally, pretty much agreed almost on everything in terms of my university, and I was about to sign the papers. And I still remember that vividly. I'm coming to my educational manager office, and she's got the map of the world behind her, and I'm just looking at that, and I was like, look, before we sign everything, can you tell me about this country? And I pointed in Australia. And with all due respect, I didn't know anything about Australia. I was like, it's a developed country. And she just looked at me like that. She was like, Michael, it's one of the best countries in the world. I was like, tell me more. And we just she just told me about the kind of just the country in general, the immigration policies and stuff like that. And I just changed my mind immediately. I was like, no, I don't want to go to Canada anymore, and I want to go to Australia because of the climate, and just like, I just had like the feeling about it. Like, I just had a really, really good gut feeling. And I just got enrolled in Macquarie University in Sydney to study Master of International Business. And that's how I end up in Australia. Like literally came here without knowing anyone, just by myself with one bag. So it was quite risky. I was quite reckless, I must say. Like, I can't imagine doing it again. I'm 28. When I came here, I was 22. So I honestly now I've got I've got partner, I've got friends, I've got work. I can't even imagine to do anything like that. You probably can do things like that when you don't have any commitments, and when you just really free, and when you have a need. And I had a need to move. So due to political reasons, it's kind of like, was already boiling up slowly but surely, and I could feel that something is happening. So that's why I just ultimately I decided to leave. So that's how I end up in Australia, and never regretted about it.
Excellent. So that was like 6 years ago. You came over and started studying at Macquarie Uni. So
exactly.
Studying international business, I mean, what were the plans at that stage? I understand the motivations to, move west, and you had that love affair with Australia without knowing a lot about Australia, which is awesome. That's not uncommon, right?
No.
So what were the plans when you were studying? Where did you think that degree was going to take you?
I just I didn't have a very good plan, if I'm honest. I was just more focusing on where I'm going to. Sorry, I just let my dog out of the room. She just was asking me to take her out. So my plan was just to get a degree, to first of all, just to learn about the culture in Australia, because it's completely different culture here, and it was a huge learning curve for me to just learn the way people communicate. In Russia, it's very different. People are very direct. People will be into your face. Whereas in Australia, it's very Anglo-Saxon society. And, I had to learn, the finesse of, being nice, and being really asking oh, how are you, stuff like that. That's I didn't know all that. I learned English when I was back in Russia. I came here, I could speak freely, but I couldn't understand the context, and I couldn't understand the culture. And first year was really hard to learn, and I learned it hard way. But I'm very grateful for university, because they had a lot of programs to adapt, and I think just learning the degree helped me to to adapt to the culture. And then I just always wanted to be work in corporate, and I used to work a bit in finance back in Russia, but I didn't want to do that. So I always knew that I will move to the corporate job, but I didn't know where at that stage. If you if you ask me why I moved to recruitment, it's probably the question you would want me to ask. It's a separate story, but in terms of the degree, I just really my plan was just to learn a bit more about Australia, and just use it as a leverage to continue working here and stay potentially.
Okay. And I will ask about recruitment in a moment, and how that journey kicked off. I'm really keen. You mentioned that you were working in Russia. What was your very first role, Michael? What was the first job you ever had?
The very, very first role, I was still at school. I was, people who distribute newspapers at the street. I wasn't doing that. I was inspecting them, that they were doing actually their job. So I was just had a kind of a list of people that I had to go and check, like a spy from the bush, that they're actually doing their job. So that was my very, very first paid job. But then I
Wow.
worked, in retail, and my very, very first corporate job was back in Russia. I was working in finance, just doing account payable and
Oh, yeah.
receivable. So yeah, it was very boring. But yeah.
Wow, it's so interesting. And then at some stage over, like in Sydney, I'm assuming with Macquarie Uni, there was a point that you transitioned into the recruitment industry. Was that after you completed your studies, or was that during your
Yeah.
time? Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate that I could get internship through uni, and it was like a business consulting internship. I was just helping a guy with his clients, and then I was just like, after I graduated, I was like, okay, well, I need to find out what I'm going to do, and I wanted to do tech sales. But I wasn't really lucky, and I didn't get any traction with these roles. And recruiters started reaching out to me with some opportunities in sales, and one of them just said, "Oh, well, why wouldn't you do recruitment?" I was like, "Well, I don't have the HR degree for that. Like,
Yeah.
And they said, like, "Oh, trust me, you don't need a HR degree to do to do recruitment." And I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting. So tell me more." And I was interviewing for a few agencies, and then I was connected to my very first manager in Phoenix Cell, James Matthews, and he gave me a job initially, and that's how I started.
So your very first recruitment job, what did you expect it to be? What did you think you would be doing as a recruitment consultant?
Um, well, I I knew that it would be just focusing on filling the roles. Basically, that was the main goal of the role, and I kind of knew that. I obviously asked what it involves, and I did a lot of research about it. I didn't walk into this role without anything, without nothing, knowing nothing. But yeah, I didn't I wouldn't say that I got what I expected, really. It wasn't much disalignment. So yeah, I would say what I was promised, I got it. Just a lot of. I remember I started during the time when recruitment was really really busy. There was a lot of roles, a lot of requirements. Not many candidates available on the market, so the salaries were flying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite an interesting role. I realized that probably that it's very sales focused when you work in an agency. Probably after a year, that it's more sales job than actually recruitment. That's probably was a bit of discovery, but yeah, I think everything else was kind of very clear. It's not like a rocket science. Science.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, what you describe is helping people find jobs, right? And that's why we move into it. But then you do in agency, you've got the complexity of business development, and as
Yeah.
a recruiter, it can take a little bit of time to understand those gut feelings when it comes to candidates, and how do you navigate through what candidate is going to be successful through the process, and we learn along the way, and we learn very quickly. It can be quite a baptism of fire. Like, were you specializing in a certain space, or were you doing generalist recruitment? What did your desk look like in that first role?
In the very first role, yeah, it was across tech. It was
Right.
more your project services and BAs, because that was one of the busiest one. And also I was looking after Google and Lion Nathan, so
Oh,
quite a big
wow.
account. And yeah, I was quite generalist. So that's how I end up in marketing, in recruiting for marketing space, because Google was releasing a lot of roles in marketing, and I really, really loved doing them, and other agencies just couldn't be bothered even working on them. So I
Okay.
literally, within couple of months, I made finite. Well, now it's Randstad, but back then it was finite. Top. Top supplier for Google across APAC. So yeah, it was quite exciting roles. But yeah, look, I started from tech, and then I made a decision to move to marketing, where I'm still currently.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. And at what point was it at that point where you decided that, hey, this might be the career for me to be a recruitment consultant? This is where I want to focus the rest of my career. When did that happen? Did that happen early on, stepping into recruitment and focusing on tech, or was it when you started working on those marketing roles? What was that moment in time that you went, yeah, this is for me?
Yeah, well, I would say it was probably from the beginning, but more like, confidently, I could say that after I started doing marketing, that's what I enjoy. And, I tried to do a bit of different, like, type of roles. Even like, I tried to do sometimes, like, sales roles fall into marketing and I just hate doing them, but sometimes I have to. And I just, like, that moments I hate my job, so I know that when I do marketing I love it. So yeah, I would say probably when I started like around 2.5 years ago doing just marketing roles, that's where I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do for a long time. And yeah, then we will see what life else brings.
Yeah, fantastic. And has the reality of working as a recruitment consultant, and I might even go a little bit deeper here in terms of working as a recruitment consultant in Sydney, Australia versus growing up in Russia, like has the reality of this industry and of this culture and of that corporate life that you were dreaming of, has it met your expectations, Michael?
Yeah, 100%. I would say like in Australia, corporate culture is definitely friendlier and healthier. In Russia, it was all about the results and very cutthroat, kind of environment. I still like probably have like some remnants of that in myself. Like, I have like very high expectations from myself, and I might put a little bit more pressure. And whereas like, my manager like even says to me that like you don't need to like, stress too much about it. And what I love here as well, that you can make a mistake, and like, you can learn from that. It's a safe space.
Mm.
Whereas like, in Russia, like from what I remember, like, you can't make really a mistake. If you make a mistake, you'll be like literally, I don't know, like, like you'll be shamed in front of the whole team, which like is really humiliating. So you're kind of like, people scared to do anything because they just don't want to make mistakes. Whereas here it's completely different. I mean, look, depends on the organization. Obviously, there are still some companies who like, would be quite toxic, but as a rule of thumb, I would say, most companies here are more healthier and culture is better. And people, what I like here as well in corporate, that most companies, especially bigger companies, they really really invest in their employees. They look at the employees well-being. They invest in this like, well-being programs. They look at after like, physical and emotional well-being, which is really really important these days. They like, give this extra annual leave, like lunches, breakfast, some team building events, stuff like that. So it's really really appealing. And I would say it's, for me, it's like still quite mind blowing. So yeah, I would say over exceeded my expectations overall.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Have you been back to Russia over the last 6 years?
No,
Not yet?
unfortunately, I can't go back because when I wanted to go back, it was COVID, and obviously borders were closed. And
Mm.
now because of the war, I just like, I just like it's not
Yeah.
really 100% safe really for me to go
Mm.
back. So unfortunately, no. But my mom comes here
Oh, she does. Oh,
every
that's
year,
great.
so yeah. So it's good to see her here once a year. So yeah, that's okay.
Oh,
It
Michael,
is
she
what it
must be
is.
so incredibly proud of you and your career and all the things
She's
that you're doing.
yeah, she's
That's wonderful.
absolutely, yeah. She loves it here. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah, for sure, right? For sure.
I
Now,
know.
now you've been working as a recruitment consultant for those 6 years. I think we calculated
Less. I was
less
working 3.5, three and a bit.
three and a
So
bit,
six
three and
years
a bit.
I've been in Australia. So
That's
I was
right.
starting first 2 years, and yeah, so around three over 3 years.
Over 3 years. And you've worked for 2 recruitment agencies so far? Is that right?
No, but no, I just recently joined the Onset. It's pretty much like, same marketing and digital. It's just, after 2 years being in the agency, just didn't feel like, felt a little bit stagnant there. And I just had the opportunity here and it was quite appealing. And, I've been here probably almost 2 months. And really, really loving it. It's such a different vibe. It's more techie agency, with cool clients, with more startup-y clients. So it's a really, really interesting one. And the infrastructure that we've got here kind of to support us, it's fantastic as well. So it's helpful.
I love the way you say cool clients. And I mean, you started your career as a rookie recruiter with a brand like Google as a client, right?
True. I was very privileged.
I'm curious about Google, right? Like when you were talking to candidates back then in the tech space, when you would reach out and say, hey, I've got an opportunity at Google, would you ever get any hesitation, or was it just a no-brainer for people?
Well, look, I sometimes had some people who just like, oh, no, you don't recruit for Google. I was like, no, I do. I was like, do you want me to send you an email or something? And they were kind of weird about it. And was like, well, you missed a great opportunity. But mostly it was easy to sell, obviously, the role because it was Google, obviously. But no, I had some counter offers that candidates accepted, or candidate from other businesses, they accepted the offers. And, I mean, I can't say that now, I guess. And, Google is great, but there are a lot of great businesses as well in the market who can beat their offer and, in general, what they're offering. And, let's take Atlassian, for instance. It's a fantastic business that, offer great benefits as well. So, but Google obviously is more kind of, how can I say that? It's like a brand. It's like a big brand.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that it's their dream company to work for, right?
Yeah. But it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, for sure. Yeah. But most people who are placed, they're really happy there. Like one of the candidates who are placed there, she got permanent role there. I'm actually catching up with her in a few days. So I'm really excited to see and her grow in there. And it's really cool. So yeah.
Excellent. Michael, what have been, over the last few years, what have been the biggest lessons you've learned?
Oh, biggest lessons, I guess, just being really transparent with everyone, with candidates and clients. It's a small world when you recruit, especially in one space. So everyone kind of knows each other eventually. And, if you screw up once, people would remember that and, kind of point out on that. So just being quite transparent, being still very consistent, resilient, just working hard. Really, that's that's probably the main lessons that comes to top of my mind.
Welcome to another season of Anything But Law, where we talk about anything but law. It's literally in the name. This season, we continue to dive into the minds of exceptional people, from entrepreneurs and business leaders to gold medal winning Olympians and thought leaders. We bring you inspiring stories and valuable insights from those who have truly made a mark in their fields. In each episode, we explore the success mindset, the art of overcoming adversity, and the powerful lessons learned from failures that have launched extraordinary success. Our guests share their journeys, challenges, and the pivotal moments that have defined their paths to greatness.
I also like when you were mentioning, some of the differences between corporate working culture in Australia versus Russia, and where you talk about the Australian market, that, you don't need to be afraid to make mistakes. And I think that's a really great lesson that making a mistake is actually an opportunity to learn and grow. And it is quite often making that mistake beneficial to you.
Exactly.
And I really like that. I think that's a lesson that I was, the way you described, I was a little bit like that earlier in my career, where I was, being a bit of a perfectionist and very scared to make an error. And I think when you do embrace those errors, you become better at what you do, because you're learning and you're learning about people. And it's an unusual role that we're in, because there isn't a product that we're selling. It's really trying to match someone and get to the core of that human being to find the right opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Do you ever get surprised by people's motivations or by the experience of candidates?
You know what? Probably first year and a half I was surprised, but now you can't really surprise me. I went through everything. I think I honestly I expect everything. I kind of, how can I say that? My manager always says to me, 99% in our job is still closer to 0 than to 100. So, I just, we are people, we're not perfect. As you said, with quite a unique situation. We, when you're selling a phone, to someone, the phone can't say no, but with a candidate is different experience, right? So you're just selling the candidate and they can say no and the client can say no. So it's just, it's quite hard to manage, but it's very rewarding when it's working out. So
Michael, what are you most passionate about?
In life or in recruitment?
You know what, let's do both. Let's do recruitment and life. I think that's a nice combo.
Okay. Well, in recruitment, I'm more passionate about the customer service and candidate service. I put it in the same umbrella. It's not just about the placement for me. It's more about the story and how it's all worked out. Just I get so much satisfaction when I find the right solution for everyone, for the client and for the candidate, not just when you just put in some CV, just hoping for the best, hopefully they will work out. But just when you learn the problem, the challenges, and find the perfect solution, and when it all ticks, it's just beautiful. I don't know, I love it. As for life, learning new things, 100%. I'm a lifetime learner. I got 2 degrees, which I never really used, but it was various reasons. In Russia, I had to go to the army. Here, I had to get a degree to stay. So it was kind of I had to get them. But I learned English. I'm quite passionate now about fitness, and I want to learn to get a certification in that and continue learning, get my knowledge official. Maybe learn new language as well, one more. I'm not quite sure if I can make it, but if I really get motivated about it, I will. So learning is my passion, 100%.
Amazing. We'll talk about a growth mindset, Michael, but don't burn yourself out. That's a lot to do.
I know. No, it's not at the same time. It's just in a graduate way.
Sure. Well, you mentioned the Onset, and you've joined the Onset a couple of months ago. So for anyone out there that's listening that perhaps haven't heard of the Onset, tell us about your role and tell us about the agency.
Yeah, cool. So the Onset been on the market for I think around 10 years. So initially we started as an agency specializing in very deep tech recruitment, doing your software engineers and cyber people. So it was founded by 4 guys, and then gradually they expanded. Now we've got executive search arm. We've got go-to-market team that covers marketing, digital, product, data, insights, pretty much everything across marketing. And we also got what else we've got? and like, tech recruiters, like, infrastructure and all this, like, project services. So my role in a business, I'm a part of the go-to-market team. So I look after all things marketing, digital, product design, creative a little bit as well. More like, your junior or mid-level candidates, and my manager is looking after more like senior marketing people, like kind of your head of or chief marketing officers, things like that. So yeah, that's us.
You loving it? You loving it?
I love it. Yeah, it's been so good. I used to work with my manager in previous agencies, so it's been quite an easy transition. But it's like, the clients that we worked on are really, really interesting. They're more like, in this tech space. And look, we also got like some enterprise level clients as well. And I enjoy working with both because there are benefits for both and drawbacks, like, also. So, but yeah, it's such an interesting business. It's such a great office as well in the Surrey Hills, in the heart of, in the heart of Surrey Hills. So it's like, we're surrounded by all these startups, like, Canva is like literally across the road. So it's a really, really cool atmosphere here. And I love the people that they're really passionate about their vertical. So we're quite like, specializing in certain things. Certain like spaces, desks. So it's quite interesting to see how people are passionate and just enjoying recruiting and where they recruit.
Amazing! It sounds like a vibe. That's awesome, mate.
Yeah,
Finally, what advice would you give to anyone out there who's working in recruitment or perhaps considering a career in recruitment?
External in the agency or internal?
Either way, we're one industry, right? So,
yeah.
Anyone that's recruiting, piece of advice from Michael, bit of wisdom.
I would say stick to what you are good at, focusing on your strengths, and just like developing your strengths rather than thinking like what am I lacking of. And just being consistent, being like being transparent. Don't ghost anyone in the industry because people remember that, and people are really appreciative when you get back to them. So yeah, that's probably the main pillars, and just like working hard. It's not an easy job, but it's very rewarding.
Absolutely. Strengths-based leadership. You're talking my language. Well, Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining the Rubber Band podcast today. I can't wait to continue watching your journey, and congratulations on everything you've achieved today. It's amazing. Beautiful. Amazing work, mate.
Thank you. And appreciate you having me here. It's been great.
Thanks, Michael.